All right, let's jump right in with a fact that just blows my mind. Number one, this nation literally holds the number one spot for the largest proven oil reserves on the entire planet. We are talking about more oil sitting underground than anywhere else on Earth.
But right up against that unimaginable wealth is another massive number, 7 million. Over 7 million citizens have packed up and left their homeland. It's a huge movement of people, and honestly, it's created a pretty massive knowledge gap internationally. What we see in the headlines doesn't always match the reality on the ground.
So, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the absolute most complex political and socioeconomic transformations of the 21st century, Venezuela. Oh, and a quick heads up for our viewers. If you prefer, definitely turn on those subtitles en español to follow along in the native language of the region we're discussing. Our goal today is to look at things completely objectively. We want to understand how an era shifted a nation and what the future might actually hold.
To make sense of all this, we're going to zoom way out to the macro geopolitics, and then zoom right back into the human level. Here is our roadmap. We'll hit the geopolitical board, the economic paradox, the Venezuelan exodus, the engine of resilience, and finally, an open future.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, El Tablero Geopolítico, or the geopolitical board.
To really grasp where things are at right now, we have to rewind a bit and trace the structural shifts of the past decade. It really started in 2013 with the arrival of a new administration, which threw the country into a highly volatile period. Fast forward to the mid-2010s, and we see deep political polarization taking root. People were fiercely debating things like institutional control and electoral transparency. Then, by the late 2010s, foreign powers stepped in with international financial sanctions. And all of this, it's led to over a decade of intense global scrutiny.
But here's the crucial takeaway. This was absolutely not just a domestic issue. It basically turned into a decisive geopolitical chessboard for the whole region. The internal workings of the government became this massive focal point for global diplomacy, and it heavily impacted international relations all across the Americas. It's like a giant puzzle where every single piece affects the others.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, La Paradoja Económica, the economic paradox. So, all that geopolitical tension, it built up into a staggering economic reality for the people actually living there. We see this striking paradox. On one hand, you have a country with unparalleled petrostate wealth, again, the largest proven oil reserves in the world. But on the other hand, there's the sudden, harsh reality of daily economic life. We're talking years of hyperinflation, severe shortages of basic products, and a massive drop in oil production. You can really see this decline in historically rich areas, like the Maracaibo Lake Basin.
Just to survive, the economy effectively fractured. It's split. You have the state apparatus dealing with structural difficulties and shrinking production. But then, on the street level, society experienced what's called a de facto dollarization. Basically, everyday people just started using US dollars to buy things and survive. It's a fascinating display of a private sector desperately trying to reinvent itself. You even see the reopening of certain commercial sectors, even while the state is struggling.
Which brings us directly to Section 3, El Éxodo Venezolano, the Venezuelan exodus. This is without a doubt the most emotional and tangible face of the crisis. Remember those 7 million migrants we mentioned at the very beginning? Well, seeking new opportunities and just basic stability, they've spread out across some primary routes. We're talking massive movements into Colombia, Peru, Chile, Spain, and the United States. Think about what that means. Millions of families divided by thousands of miles. Heartbreaking goodbyes at bus terminals and airports are just a daily reality.
I really want you to stop and reflect on the scale of this for a second. This isn't just some isolated temporary event. No way. It is a macro geopolitical shift that is actively altering the demographics of an entire continent. The cultural and economic integration of these migrants is fundamentally reshaping communities all across the Americas. It's a total game changer.
Let's pivot to Section 4, El Motor de Resiliencia, the engine of resilience.
Because, look, reducing Venezuela to just its crisis would be a massive oversight. In the face of all this immense adversity, a brilliant new generation has stepped up, representing true reinvention. You've got local entrepreneurs opening brand new businesses in Caracas. You've got dedicated farmers up in the Andes fighting tooth and nail to maintain food supplies. Young people are driving innovation in tech and culture. And the diaspora, the folks who left, They're out there boosting global economies while keeping their cultural identity alive. They are building vibrant communities both inside and outside their borders.
And that brings us to a quote that brilliantly captures our core takeaway today. La sociedad civil sigue siendo el verdadero motor de resistencia y cambio. Civil society continues to be the true engine of resistance and change. At the end of the day, it is the people, their sheer grit, their adaptability. That is what defines the resilience of this nation.
Finally, Section 5. Un futuro abierto, an open future.
Zooming back out to look at what lies ahead, the future really requires navigating three monumental steps. Step 1 is keeping an open, democratic conversation going. Step 2, a massive economic reconstruction to stabilize the country and help it grow beyond those harsh contrasts we talked about earlier. And step 3 is national reconciliation. This means healing the deep divisions caused by years of polarization and mass migration. It proves that really understanding this present reality is about listening to a people who just want to determine their own destiny.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound open-ended conversation. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you pondering this question. What does it truly take to rebuild a nation's destiny from the very foundation? Think about it. Think about the geopolitical chessboard, the economic paradoxes, the millions of people who have relocated, and that absolutely unyielding resilience of the civil society. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're rewatching, don't forget you can always toggle on those subtítulos in Español, and most importantly, keep asking those big questions.